Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. So we're gonna pick back up with chapter 5 in Million Dollar Throw by Mike Lupica. There were times when Nate could actually trick himself into thinking the same as they'd always been. Things were the same as they'd always been with his dad. At least when his dad was around. I'm sorry, we're picking up on chapter 6. They would sit at the kitchen table and talk about last Sunday's Patriot game, unless it was time to start looking ahead to next Sunday's game. They talk about Tom Brady's statistics, his touchdowns and interceptions. Not that there were ever many interceptions to talk about. They would even discuss Brady's passer rating, Nate having figured out how to compute a guy's quarterback rating on his own. Abby said it was the first math homework assignment Nate had ever wanted to complete, and she was right. He had worked on football math until he got it perfect. The strange formula that used completion percentage, yard per attempt, touchdowns per attempt, and interceptions per attempt. The formula that had a highest possible rating of 158.3. Great, Brady, Abby had said the one and only time he tried to explain it to her. 100% is a perfect score for everybody else. Yet you have to go 158 just to show off. You forgot .3, he said. Shut up, she said. His dad got it, though. His dad always had a good head for numbers. Even though he joked these days that the numbers weren't adding up for their family quite the way they used to, that was a good thing. Nobody was rating him on how he was selling real estate. Those conversations, the ones about family finances and the state of the real estate business, never lasted long. On rare nights when his dad was home for dinner, they'd head over to Capo Park as soon as they finished clearing the table and throw a ball around. Chris Brody had been a quarterback in high school and still had a decent arm. And when he'd get warmed up, when he'd start to feel loose, Nate would know what it felt like to be Pete or one of his other receivers on the Valley team, what it was like to be on the receiving end, the pain end of what Pete liked to call Nate's start. On nights like these, Nate's dad would laugh and acted as if he didn't have a care in the world. Only the next night he wouldn't be there for dinner. Would be off to his second job as the night manager at Big Bill Sports in DeWitt, the next town over in the Pheasant Hill Outlet Mall just off the highway, a mall that made the one in Valley look small enough to fit in its pocket. The stores there stayed open until 10 o'clock. Most nights, Nate's dad wouldn't be home until 11, by which time Nate would be asleep. When Nate would get up for breakfast the next morning, there would be no conversation about sports or anything else at the kitchen table. His dad would already be at the tiny office he kept for Brody Real Estate over McBride's, the convenience store in Valley where everybody went to buy newspaper and candy. Nate had gone there one time only, and immediately realized that Brody Real Estate was only his dad and that his office was a desk and a telephone and a small window looking out on Elm Street. When he'd ask his mom about it later, she said, "Your dad still needs a place to go in the morning." "What does he do there all day by himself?" Nate had asked. "Sometimes he just waits for the phone to ring," she'd said. His dad put it another way. He said he just was waiting for the game to change, the way he had been waiting for it to change since he'd lost his job as his old real estate company. "We're like the Patriots," he'd said to Nate. "They were down with Belichick when Belichick started coaching them, but look where they are now. They're the team to beat pretty much every year now. It'll be our turn soon again." Nate wondered when soon would arrive. He hoped it was before somebody finally bit on the for sale sign that had been in front of their house since the end of last school year. There was something about that sign that was like Abby's sunglasses, a reminder that hardly anything in Nate's life outside of football was the way he wanted it to be, or the way he'd always thought it would be before his dad lost his job and Abby started to lose her eyesight. The day the for sale sign went up, his parents had told him there was nothing for him to worry about. They were always telling him there was nothing to worry about, that they wouldn't be leaving Valley, that he wasn't going to have to change schools, that Valley was too small for him to have to worry about being far from Abby or any of his other friends. They were just looking for a smaller house, one that fit what his mom liked to call their new circumstances. Nate had tried to get used to those circumstances. had tried to get used to always keeping his room clean, just in case somebody who might want to buy their house was coming by to look at it. That was back when people were still coming by to look. Some nights he would sit at his bedroom window, not looking at the stars the way Abby loved to, but looking out at that for sale sign as though it were his address now, not 127 Spencer Street, just for sale, Massachusetts. He was doing that tonight. A few hours after he'd knocked off Abby's glasses, unable to sleep, he thought about getting on his computer and seeing if Abby was still awake. Instant messaging her the way he did at night when he couldn't sleep or couldn't figure things out, when his mind seemed to be going in 10 different directions at once. She'd figured things out for him or give him a pep talk, and those huge letters they use now when they were IMing each other, or just making him feel better by using one of her favorite phrases. Get over it, Brady. And just like that, he would. Abby hadn't been awake tonight, and Nate had finally managed to fall asleep when the voices from downstairs woke him up. Nate couldn't tell at first whether his parents were having an argument. He just knew that his dad's voice was loud and he was saying something about how somebody had better buy their house before the bank got it. Then he heard his mom tell his dad to lower his voice or he was going to wake Nate. Maybe he needs to hear this, he said. No, Chris, his mom said. He doesn't. He's got enough to worry about. And his dad said, do you think he doesn't understand what's going on around here? Do you think the boy doesn't see what's happening to us? Do you think he actually believes us when we tell him not to worry about money? He's far too smart for that. Nate's chest tightened and his hands gripped at the blanket hard. His dad wasn't joking about for sale signs now or anything else. Not talking about game changers, not talking about how the Patriots got turned around, not pretending that things were going to be the way they used to be. His mom was doing her best to keep her voice low, as though it could somehow quiet his father's loud one. But Nate heard every word in the still darkness. Sports is a job for you now, Chris, not him. He's just a boy. His father said nothing at first, and Nate thought it was over, that he could try to somehow get back to sleep. Only it wasn't over. Nate heard him loud and clear. You know what we could use around here? $1 million. So we will pick up with chapter 7 on Monday. So be ready for that. I'll send you that one again. Oh gosh. Also, your question for today is I want you to retell everything that has happened. So jot that down on your paper and retell all the things that you can remember that has happened so far. Thank you guys. I hope you have a great Sunday afternoon. Enjoy relaxing. And I'll see you on Monday.